A very good morning to you and welcome to Just Africa. We are reaching you live from our studios, Sook News Television. It's the program where we examine the pulse of the continent through the lens of governance, leadership, policy, and people. I am Oyinpreye Krumale. So just a moment. Olumide, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
June 12th, we just celebrated June 12th, and it's like the atmosphere is still filled with the speech that the president made.
Yes.
And we will be having a conversation with our guests, dissecting that speech. If it has, if there's this thing about nationalism, if the essence of June 12th that we're being celebrating today, if it's really in the speech.
Yeah, there's this quote I found, and I would like to read it. It said, "In democracy, silence is not golden, especially when it comes from the top. The words of the president must not speak only to power, but also to truth. And when they fail to do so, the people must respond with questions, scrutiny, and with insistence that accountability is not optional."
Great. And those are the questions we will be asking today. So in today's edition, we'll focus on a critical cornerstone of democratic culture, presidential transparency, and speech accountability, with special attention to Nigeria's June 12th Democracy Day and President Bola Tinubu's national broadcast across Africa. Presidential speeches are more than ceremonial addresses. They serve as the policy signals, social contracts, and reflections of national direction. For Nigeria, June 12th is not just a day on the calendar. It represents a battle won for democratic ideals. But the battle for transparency, trust, and tangible governance outcomes continues. In this episode, we will dissect President Tinubu's June 12th address to the nation, exploring what was said, what was not said, and what means for the people of Nigeria. From economic reforms to democratic resilience, we hold up the lens of speech accountability, asking, do presidential words align with public realities? That is the question we will be asking. Well, our guest is standing by and is joining us on the program. His name is Honorable Femi Adebisi. He's Justice of Peace, that's JP. He's the he's the former Vice Chairman of Ibadan, Southeast Local Government Area, MAPO, Public Policy and Public Affairs Analyst. Good morning to you. And Mr. Adebisi, welcome. Many thanks for joining us this morning on Just Africa. Please kindly unmute so we can hear you clearly from here. Kindly unmute. Okay, so let's continue the conversation. So if the quote, there's something I said about my intro. Does the president's speech align with current reality? For my conversation with some people, they were saying, okay, the president's speech was filled with politics rather than the role June 12th played in the political history in Nigeria and how people have come to identify with that specific day in our political history. Well, others, because when you are engaged on social media and of course physically, you meet some people who have a soft spot for the political party that is in power, and you have those who are critical or who are dissatisfied with current happenings in Nigerian political space, and they are telling you the president ought to do this, that, and the other, but the speech actually falls short of some of these realities and expectation, and they needed him to come to, cover up that space.
Yes. June 4th, a lot of people were looking forward to an encouraging speech. Let me borrow that renewed agenda. They were actually looking for that renewed agenda, that what the president would say would give them succor and bring hope that, okay, this nation is moving forward. And I think to some extent, he tried to do justice to that. For the June 12th announcement, I think he gave MK Abola and the wife. He gave them, honored them, he honored the Gani Fawemis and all that.
Yes.
In terms of development, he spoke about the fiber optics.
Yes.
He did a whole lot.
Yes.
But let's have our guest, Honorable Femi Adebisi. It's glad to have you. Please kindly unmute your set so that we can hear you clearly from here.
It's my
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, we can hear you clearly. So glad to have you on the show this morning. Okay. So let me throw out the first question. June 12th presidential speech. A lot of people were expecting a whole lot more than what the president delivered. People, just like Priya said, people tend to feel that the president was being more political than being a president or being presidential in addressing the people as to regards of what June 12th meant and will actually mean for us in the future.
You see, when government works, in most cases, quite, so many people. Because in Nigeria, regardless of how we have been governed, you see, when you are talking about governance, it's all about, especially in a democracy, it's all about of the governed and the government. So there must be a strong. But of course, a whole kind of democracy in Nigeria, especially the public, there is a whole gap in between the two, the government and the government. And the reason is obvious. We are on the structure.
Honorable Adefemi, can you hear me?
Now,
Okay, Adefemi, please stay on the line. We'll go on a break. When we return, our conversation with you regarding the President's June 12th speech will continue. Just stay online. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. Our conversation is centered around the June 12th conversation, or will I say national broadcast that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave when we celebrated that a few days ago. So we are looking at the speech that he made, what he mentioned, what he did not mention, and the connection with national realities as far as Nigeria is concerned. Our conversation this morning is with Honorable Femi Adebisi JP. Is the former vice chairman of Ibadan Southeast Local Government Area, Makbo, and is also a public affairs analyst. Welcome once again. Many thanks for joining us on the conversation, Honorable Femi Adebisi.
Oh, my name is Femi Adebisi, but be that as it may, I want to say good morning to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Honorable Olufemi Adebisi. So we continue the conversation from where we stopped earlier.
All right, so Honorable Femi Adebisi, like I said earlier on, the people were expecting a whole lot more from that speech, but some have said it was more of political, with political jabs thrown here and there. But he also expressed a bit of development and economic development in the country. But what would you say, in your own opinion, would you say that he did justice as to delivering a speech that Nigerians actually yearned for?
Well, going by the presidential speech on the June 12 occasion, I think we had a kind of, what do I call it now? I think a kind of confusion. Two programs are wrapped in one. You cannot, assume that June 12 will communicate the essence of democracy. Though it birthed, the republic we are talking about now. But then, when you are talking about democracy is so wide. Democracy, determines who we are, our status, how we govern ourselves, our future, our today. So it's a wider issue. We're talking about June 12. June 12 is just an event centered around democracy. So when you collapse the two into one, then there is bound to be confusion. And that's why you are getting that kind of confusion in the presidential speech, as he dwelled largely on the event of June 12 and, dwelling less on the problems and issues and challenges of our democratic, system, as it were, in Nigeria as of today. So you see that there were a whole lot of events, like the jamboree of the awards and all those stuff, which becloud the good reason why we set aside a particular day. So actually, I think the people are expecting that over the last 26 years, the president will revisit the event around democracy. We want to know, has it been working? If it is working, then what kind of improvement? If it is not working, yes, what can we do to make it work? And of course, it is supposed to be a kind of engagement between the president and his own people in Nigeria. See, the injustice in that particular speech, let me tell you. If I felt so disappointed, actually, I think the agenda was that the president would talk to the larger populace, the Nigerians at large, home and abroad, first in the morning. But that was cancelled without apology. And the president chose to speak with, the legislators and selected people that were invited into that meeting. So, leaving the people. So, in fact, I think ideally I expected that, a kind of presidential rapport with Nigerians on phone and television would be the order of the day and would have been the best, so that there will be a link between the governed and the government, so that all together we'll be able to talk together. In fact, we've been calling that we need national meeting to redefine our democracy in Nigeria, because that democracy happened to be built on a kind of faulty foundation, which we all agreed on. And essentially, before Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu became the president, he happened to be one of the advocates of, what we call restructuring. Restructuring of what? Restructuring of our democracy. He believed that Nigeria is not working and is not likely to work. It's not likely to work under the current democratic dispensation. He has been fighting for that. He had been an apostle of what we call restructuring, so that altogether we look at our democracy and see in whole sense how we can redefine it, rework it, or reconfigure it to make it work for everybody, so that we can use democracy to build sustainable economic growth and industrialization, so that we can channel democracy to make sure that, according to Section 1 of Nigerian Constitution, that that the power belongs to the people, the sovereignty belongs to the people, so that, according to Section 14 also of the Nigerian Constitution, so that democracy can guarantee security and welfare of the people and access.
Honorable Olufemi, please permit me to come in here. Honorable Olufemi, thank you so much for what you've just said. Now, let me take you there's something clear about you and your designation. You are a journalist, you are a public affairs analyst and a commentator. You are a journalist, and you also have, engaged yourself in the level of governance at the ebb of society, being a former vice chairman of Ibadan Southeast local government area. So I think somehow I can deduce that you are conversation or communication-wise, you are conversant. So I want to ask you, from the body language of Mr. President, while giving that broadcast in a joint session of both the senators and members of the House of Representatives, what are the information that were core to that day for June 12th that you think the president deliberately, put out of the broadcast?
Well, I think the president ought to have highlighted the national question. He ought to have revisited the Nigeria's national objective. As a people, what are the objectives of the union or the federation called Nigeria? Have we been missing out on certain issues? And the answer is yes. There are various national questions. One of the questions is, there are so much gap between the rich and the poor in the country, especially given to the current economic reforms. It had been a situation in that regard where, the people that led us into economic crisis are not the ones that are paying for it. It is the common man on the street that is paying for it. It is the businesses that is supposed to engage families and the people of Nigeria that is suffering for it because the businesses and economy is slowed down already, and people are not seriously engaged. Families are not empowered, they are not enabled. So I thought the president at least will apologize and probably let the people know or roll out the timeline. Sorry, we're in this all together. But of course, the politicians, the political elite that led us into this crisis, they are not bearing the brunt of these particular, economic issues. They are not. We are feeding them, we are clothing them. They want yacht, we give them. They want to fly, we give them the facility. They want protection, we give them. Anything they want, we give them. But an average Nigeria has been left unprotected, and people are, probably, asking questions. They are asking the president, when is all this suffering, when will it end? We want answer to that. The people are expecting that. That is number one. Number two, security-wise, people are being killed every day. And over time, we have been unable to put an end to insecurity. You believe with me that it did not begin with this administration. It began, let me say, even from the time of Olusegun Obasanjo. But the way he dealt with it, he was able to silence it. But it became so loud during the time of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, beginning with the abduction of the Chibok girls and all that. So, and since that time, it has graduated to the issue of cattle rustling, all those stuff and all those stuff. So now, you see, the Americans, they pronounced these people that are troubling Nigeria as the fourth most deadliest group. They pronounced them as terrorists. But officially in Nigeria, we are yet to pronounce them as terrorists. As such, we have been unable to, deal with it precisely the way we're supposed to deal with it. And in the press, in the statement of Mr. President just yesterday as touching Benue issues, he was almost instructing the Governor Alia of Benue State, to go and organize a meeting between the two warring factions as if it is a kind of family matter. No, it is not. We are talking about some faceless people that, probably, invade our country from outside, collaborating with their internal, colleagues here. So it's a complex issue, which I hope the president on that particular Democracy Day will highlight. In fact, beginning with the historical perspective leading to insecurity in Nigeria, down to the contemporary events, and the contributions of some people in government or outside the government, to insecurity in Nigeria. And I thought Mr. President would have said, okay, I think there should be a national meeting so that we talk about insecurity for once in this country. People are expecting that from Mr. President. Well, we did not have things of such. It just mentioned passively and on a lighter mode. So now the issue of hunger, the issue of poverty in the land, the issue of inflation, the issue of slowed down economy, which is affecting homes and businesses. And it's not easy as businessmen. Then another thing that I thought Mr. President would talk about is the issue of energy. Without energy, you cannot achieve sustainable economic growth and industrialization. Yes, at a point, winding back to the Second Republic, they engaged on a laudable steel project in Nigeria. Yes, where is it, the Ajakuta steel project? And, when you have energy, when you have steel, then it means that you can industrialize. Because if you don't have steel in your country, it means that you cannot produce vehicle and other industrial machines from the beginning to the scratch. The Second Republic achieved that to the tune of 95%, and now it is now back to ground zero almost. So what are we doing to make sure that Nigeria works? What can we do? So those are the few things we expect from Mr. President. Of course, when you are talking about the economic reforms that is slowing down the economics, and probably, like diminishing the people's spending power. So when you are talking about that, then you need to talk about the opportunity cost. And part of the opportunity cost is that people are suffering. Inflation is, is getting higher and higher every day. So, our currency is heavily devalued. We are not competing at the international market. We are more or less a revenue-based economy and not a production-based economy. And we are borrowing to even finance our budgets. Oh, God, for God's sake. So what can we do to make sure that all those things are reversed? That is what we expected from Mr. President on the Democracy Day, rather than dwelling largely on the events.
Honorable Femi Adebisi, thank you very much for that. Two questions I'd like to ask quickly. The first one, during the speech, of course, President Tinubu awarded honors to certain people, especially MKO Abiola and his wife, Ken Sariwe, and the rest. So my question is, do you think that's a befitting reward for MKO Abiola, Kudirat Abiola, and all those who have sacrificed for democracy? Secondly, President Tinubu made mention of the establishment of fiber optics in Nigeria to enable and enhance the smooth transaction of businesses in the country. Do you think that is also a laudable achievement?
Well, yes. Let me begin with Chief MK Abiola. I followed that event, and I was a part of the activism in that particular regime. So the Third Republic, I was active, in politics then. So I think the better reward for Chief MK Abiola, especially if we were to be alive, would have been upholding the ideals of late Chief MK Abiola, which is all about industrialization, which is all about, welfareism for everybody. You recollect that, when the results were being announced, the result of that particular June 12 election, in fact, cost of commodities were already going down. And not only that, if you revisit the campaign of late Chief MK Abiola, most of those things centered on what you call welfareism. It talks about how Nigeria can be self-sustaining. He wrote especially oil, crude oil, and all those stuff. You see, there are a few things he was, he mentioned during his electioneering campaign. Yes, I thought the best reward for late Chief MK Abiola would have been, reactivating, those campaign promises and making them, come into life. So, that would have made Chief Abiola, a happy man wherever he is today. I think, and I want to believe that Chief Abiola will be weeping somewhere. If, tears, can be shed wherever he is right now, he'll be weeping, because this is not the kind of Nigeria he envisaged. This is not the kind of Nigeria, Chief Abiola was hoping for when he was campaigning. He was thinking of an egalitarian society where there'll be equality, where every voice is heard, where everyone will be someone. That's the kind of Nigeria he was talking about, where people can run freely and move freely without fear of favor. That is the kind of Nigeria he was thinking about. So, and that would have been the greatest reward. This man will, be happy at. Not the GCF that was conferred on him by the former president, not all these awards of people that, most of the people that betrayed even the June 12 movement that have been honored. Can you recollect that even Adeko that championed, that activism, the founder of it was missed out, and that's late Adekunle Ajasin. There are several key people, that are germane to that particular struggle. They were missing out. But of course, I want you to believe with me that, Chief Abiola would have loved that, one.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Olufemi. Thank you very much for your thought. Now, there's something else that I want us to look at very closely, and that is the disposition of both senators and members of the House of Representatives that were jointly seated when the president was making a nationwide broadcast, or probably maybe it was not a nationwide broadcast, it was an address to Parliament and to give posthumous awards and to some of those who have died and gone and those who are still in the current dispensation. At some point in time in the chamber, we could hear them sing, "On your mandate we stand, on your mandate we stand, on your mandate we stand." And that is not the first time we've heard such songs coming from the honorable members and distinguished senators. So this, as you know, it throws up lots of concern for those who are politically informed. In Africa, where we've not seen viable oppositions are dying by the day. And there's also an allegation against this current administration that there is an attempt, or there's an effort to make the nation a one-party state, which was one of the things that reflected in his speech. Is this argument tenable, or do you think it is just the nagging sound of political naysayers?
Yes, democracy is a beautiful concept. And when you are talking about democracy, you are talking about a kind of tripod, especially in Nigerian democracy. You are talking about the executive arm of government. You are talking about the legislative arm of government. You are talking about the judiciary. You are now referring to, the address to the assembly. Ordinarily, there wouldn't have been much cry, especially from people like me, if the president did not address the nation, because the people he addressed happened to be the representative of the people. So practically, he's speaking to the larger Nigerians in a way. But of course, the reverse is the case, given the new ugly trend in governance in Nigeria. So I was talking about the three arms of government, which is a tripod. So, okay, let's look at the tripod that holds the camera. So all of them are up, they are standing parallel, but they met at the top to uphold the camera. So that is what all of them are aiming at. But if you collapse all the three, what happened? The camera will fall. And that's why Nigeria is falling today. Because technically, the executive arm of government, the legislative arm of government, the judiciary have been collapsed into one. The president is ruling the legislative arm of government by proxy, and probably the judiciary also by proxy. So, that's why, we are now apprehensive. So, ordinarily, it wouldn't have been out of place if you address the legislative arm of government and assume that he's addressing the Nigerians, because the legislative arm of government happens to be the office of the citizen. That is our office. That is where we are being represented. And whatever they do, yes, they are doing what they are doing, but the reverse is the case today. Now, when you have 3 arms of government, the practical meaning is that you are having 3 years of government.
Oh, okay. So I think
one of the questions I wanted to even ask him was that particular time when President Tinubu said he's not pushing for a one-party system, but then again, it's a pleasure, according to him, to see them in disarray. I wanted to ask him what President Tinubu meant by that. I mean, if you're not trying to encourage a one-party system, but you are saying that seeing your opposition in disagreement makes you happy.
Yes. I think for me, I will not even blame Mr. President for making that statement by saying it will gladden his heart if he sees the opposition in disarray, because every politician wants to see that, look, at any point in time, I want to, most especially if I'm the incumbent, either the governor or the president, as the case is to, if the opposition is in disarray, they lack the formidable strength and the consensus to come together to stage a comeback or to carry out their role as constitutionally guaranteed, or as an opposition, or as democratically guaranteed as an effective opposition. So if an opposition is not together, then they lack the power to do that. So if they lack the power to do that, it just confirms that whoever is on the saddle will make sure that their own house is put in order so that they can continue to forge ahead with their own plans and with their own objectives. That is the case. But the thing is, the other allegations that people are throwing out is that the opposition that is currently in disarray, we see the body language and the actions of most of the people that were defecting, from the People's Democratic Party, which is the effective opposition, which is the opposition at this moment. They are defecting to the ruling party.
Which is another concern.
Which is a strong concern, which is the reason why there is allegation against the current administration that there is this tendency, or there's this handwriting on the wall to create a one-party state, which is what I needed him to actually address.
Let's see if he's still online. Honorable Femi Adebisi, are you there? All right. One of the questions also I wanted to ask him was that these defections, do they have any form of consequence or repercussions? Because if I feel I can leave this party today and to another party and I'll be embraced and all that, does that really uphold any value in our political system?
But I think the thing about a value in our political system goes a long way. And if it is, we have to make a very, very explicit comparison between the political parties that ushered in our political history from 1960 when we gained independence to 1963 when we became a republic, to when the coup took place and when we went back to the First Republic, what transpired in the Second Republic, all the political happenings, and how those political parties, what was the ideology of each political parties when the multiple party system came into existence in Nigeria. What was the objective of the Northern People's Congress? What was the objectives of the National Council for Nigeria and the Cameroons? What was the objective for the action group in the southwestern part of the country? What was the objective from the political party that was really taking place in the middle, not the middle belt, in Benin at that time? I've forgotten the specific name it was being called. Honorable Olufemi, are you still there? If you are not there, I think we are also due for a break as we speak. We bring you Cashcraft, and at the end of Cashcraft, we will be coming back to the studio to have more conversation and also to check if Honorable Femi is able to join us on the conversation. In absence of that, we will continue the conversation as well. But Cashcraft is coming your way. Stay with us.
Welcome to another episode on Cashcraft, the show that helps you see business where others see problems. Today, we're talking about plastic waste recycling, a hustle that's turning pollution into profit. Without taking much of your time today, let's dive straight into it. We start with the steps. Step 1, start with collection. Plastic is everywhere. Sachets, bottles, packaging. But for business, PET bottles are gold. Start by partnering with waste pickers, shops, schools, or run your own buyback point. Now you're going to offer incentives. It could be 100 naira per kilogram, depending on location and type. You need to do research on that actually. So once collected, bottles must be sorted by color and type. So you know, clean, clear bottles fetch more money. So pay attention. Let's go to step 2. Clean, crush, cash, nests. What am I talking about? Wash them, remove caps and labels, then crush or shred them into flakes using a plastic crusher. These flakes are what buyers, local or export, actually want. Now, clean, well-sorted flakes commands better prices. Think 200 to 350 naira per kilogram depending on quality. So with a semi-automatic line, you can process up to 1 ton daily. That's real volume and real money. Let's go to step 3. You need to know your market. your buyers, including local manufacturers or plastics textile companies. And even exporters, that's very important. You never can tell. Some flakes are shipped to India, China, Vietnam, or reused here in Nigeria to make buckets, chairs, or even new bottles. So let me give you a pro tip. You need to form relationships with aggregators or industrial buyers. And if you can process into pellets or fiber, your margins jump like boom. So step 4, add value, add impact. Don't just collect, create. Now some entrepreneurs now turn waste into tiles, paving bricks, and designer bags. I tell you, a lot is happening with recycling bottles. So you reduce plastic pollution and you add jobs while doing it. Step 5, learn the rules. This business is tied to regulations. So register with local waste authorities, and if you plan to export, get listed with NAFDAC or the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, NEPC. Now complying means credibility and access to big opportunities. Recycler, na bottle we dey see everywhere, gutter, road, market, but with correct machine, you fit make better money. The work dey stressful, but if you no lazy, e go pay. Of course, there are challenges: dirty waste, poor sorting, market fluctuation. Sometimes power supply slows down operations, but where others see nuisance, you should see niche. It's a dirty business with clean money. So here is your takeaways. Plastic recycling isn't just about helping the environment. It's a smart hustle. It's scalable, impactful, and already reshaping communities. From bottle to bank account, plastic is profit if you know the game. And I am Grace Komalafe. I'm here reminding you that waste is only waste when you waste it. Until next time, keep crafting your cash.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. We're looking at the president's speech for June 12th. We've been having a conversation with Honorable Olufemi Adebisi, former Vice Chairman, Ibadan Southeast Local Government Area, MAPO, and also Public Affairs Analyst. Now, Honorable Olufemi, rather, are you there? Okay, he's not there yet. So, yeah, so we were having a conversation that if a political party that is on the saddle is happy that there is the opposition that is available to check him or her is dwindling. Their political power is dwindling massively, is plummeting, and they cannot really muster all the political asset they think they have to fight back. It will be good. It will be a good thing for the party in power. However, but the thing is, I hope you are not the one responsible for weakening that party. Now, Honorable Olufemi is back on the line. Welcome once again to Just Africa. Many thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sorry for the technical glitch. I'm back now, yes. Yes, I think we're discussing the issue of what to call the possibility of one-party state, which the president debunked. Well, of course, for me as a practical politician, I don't think anything of such even arose in the first instance. What you saw happened to be a kind of political game by the president to get himself protected because he felt that his house is leaking. Well, you see, it's a kind of exhibition of fears and trying to get himself protected. How? You see, right from the onset of this administration, the APC had been grossly divided, and the principal actors in APC, they happen to be outside of the party, operating outside of the party, not working with the party, which is a kind of potential threat to the re-election of Mr. President. Let me begin with the former President Buhari, who is not with the president in practice. He might just be there in theory. You'll be talking about the former Secretary to the federal government. You'll be talking about the Rotimi Amechis. You'll be talking about the Aregbesolas. You'll be talking about Raji Fashola. You'll be talking about El Rufai. A whole lot of them. In fact, the strongest of them in their party are not seriously with the current administration. Not to wasn't the case. I think there's a kind of friction between the president and his deputy, his vice, I think Kasim Shettima. You recall that at the point they were thinking of moving him out of the main of Aso Rock, that is Keola Agoda House, moving him out of a newly refurbished at just the immediate outskirts of the Aso Rock, a 21 billion naira edifice, which he refused. And don't forget that, of course, he felt marginalized. The people saw it, and two of the key principals of the current administration had resigned. So, and there was a kind of a security report that up to about 6 governors in the north are working with the coalition outside, probably funding them. So they now need to, work from the south to fill in the gap. It means that the expected vote in 2027 by Bola Ahmed Tinubu is dwindling. It's unrealistic. It's not likely to get the kind of vote he got in the first instance. So he has to make sure that if I'm losing in the north, let me now, think about the middle belt and then towards the south. The 3 regions are, geopolitical zones at the south. So that's why you see key movement of people, especially in the south, not in the northwest, not in the northeast. So he's trying to consolidate, between the middle belt and the southern aspect of Nigeria. So that's why you see all those movements. So already there have been movement technically in APC, and the movement is even louder. It's only that we don't recognize that, louder than that of any other party. So that is not to.
All right, Honorable Femi Adebisi. One of the things President Tinubu also mentioned was that of the student loan, the NELM fund. He made mention of it as an achievement. So I want you to let us take a deep dive into this, looking at national development, looking at how far this loan has gone and how it has helped students, to get better access to education.
Well, of course, the loan. In most cases in Nigeria, you know that we are very good on papers. We are very good in saying things we cannot keep. And sometimes when you even do what you had according to your words, sometimes it's badly implemented. Do you know how much money that was stolen in that particular program? Do you know how much money does not even reach the student that are supposed to be the beneficiary? So it's a laudable program in practice, I'm telling you. In fact, I think I love it so much. It's a way of giving the opportunity, for the indigent students, to have access to tertiary education, which is perhaps, the bedrock of what you call national development. Because if you don't develop people's capacity, you are not likely to get a strengthened nation. So, it's a laudable one, but it's badly implemented.
This loan fund, students have also expressed some form of inefficiency in terms of which, by the time the loan gets disbursed, some of the students would have completed their programs and they would have gone ahead to even pay this actual money. And some of the tertiary institutions then go ahead and receive this fund without making it known or returning it back or declaring that, oh, this person has actually paid for this fund. So thereby, there's no need for this loan anymore. What can be done in this essence? How can we tighten up so that we don't get to hear anything of like corruption, mismanagement of these loans?
Well, of course, corruption, you should understand, is an integral part of our system in Nigeria. And how do we stamp it out? When you have the bulk of people that are even corrupt, the bulk of people that are having cases of corruption with the EFCC and ICPC occupying the exalted offices at the 3 levels of government. So when you have them, especially in the National Assembly, people that are still having unclosed cases with the EFCC there. So how will you now stamp out corruption? So, the little corruption you see at this particular student loans board or whatever is just a minute fraction of the high scale or high profile graft that is going on in Nigeria. So, well, you cannot in isolation stamp it out in that particular regard. But of course, I think there should be an independent body working to make sure that this program works, because it affects the youth directly, the generation next. And of course, you should know that the failure of the past leaders and the failures of the current administration is leading to what we call restiveness and frustration of the current youths. And of course, we need to pacify them. Yes, while we are looking at the people at the tertiary institution, how about the one in the secondary school? How about even the people that even does not even have access to education, which are so many in Nigeria? So the problem around education in Nigeria should be addressed holistically. And that's why Professor Wole Soyinka said that probably maybe we should just close down the tertiary institution across Nigeria for 1 year and get the whole thing reconfigured. It's as bad as that in Nigeria. So, well, of course, this loan thing, of course, is just a palliative. It's a mere thing, and very little is having access to that particular thing, and it is even badly managed, not reaching the people that are supposed to benefit, like I said. And not only that, probably by the time they benefit, there may be no need of it at all. So, yes, how to take care of it, I don't know, because it is a part of, because you can only give what you have. What you don't have, you cannot give. The current administration, the past administration, they don't have transparency. So why would they give transparency? So, the system of governance in Nigeria is opaque. So, so when it is opaque, how will you now expect them to give transparent governance, especially in that particular program? So it's not feasible.
So much, Honorable Olufemi Adebisi, former Vice Chairman, Ibadan Southeast Local Government Area, MAPO, and also a journalist and a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning on Just Africa on Soap News Television.
It's my pleasure. I feel so sorry for the technical glitch. I was unable to comfort as expected, but no problem. Some other time.
Thank you. Yes, I think those were key aspects that he mentioned. For the NEL Fund, I know that accusation that came up, and how we've not really seen much in addressing and tackling those areas that have been raised by the students and by those who suspected the whole system. Well, we just hope that it's going to get well.
Definitely.
And for Nigerian students, whether they are colleges of education, polytechnics, monotechnics, state universities, state universities, are they qualified for that loan? Federal universities and all of that. So I think it should be for everyone.
Yes. Good one. I think it should be for everyone. But it's a start. It's a laudable event. A laudable initiative. I love the initiative, and I hope it will really reduce the out-of-school children. It will really encourage people, those who don't have access to the necessary funds to further their university or further their education. It would actually give them that opportunity. I believe the stringent requirements, qualifications should be looked upon, should be made more accessible to people. Because if you look at some of the requirements and all that, the level 10, this and that, let's make it less stringent so that more people. The idea is to give people who don't have funds access to education. So I think it's one of the things we should
As we wrap up the show, maybe I should ask this rhetorical question. The purpose of this NEL Fund is to give access to people, or indigent students who cannot really afford it. But indigent students can also go to private schools, private institutions, where they can pay 750,000 naira, 800,000 or 1 million naira for a session. Maybe, can they have access to the loan? Maybe they are trying to avoid strike action coming from, the academic staff union of universities or other civil society organizations that could delay their time while they're in school. In that case, they have a justifiable argument. So can they have 1 million naira, pay for their school fees, one of the private institutions in the country, and you do that for 4 or 5 years, and you get out of there, then you have like 6-7 million naira to pay back to the government? That's why it's a rhetorical question, because if we have to start answering the question,
it's a
whole lot. This is where we draw the curtain on just Africa. Our focus has been on Nigeria because June 12th just passed. We celebrated that, and we're still looking at that. So most likely tomorrow we will be discussing about our dear country, Nigeria, still in the continent of Africa. I am Oyinpreye Krumale. I leave you in the hands of the uniqueness of Africa.
And I am Olumide Sokoya. Enjoy the rest of your day.